Welcome everyone to the Galactica Corecast. This is a space for every present and future Galactica Network citizen to have some fun, chat with the team, and learn everything you need to know about the very first Cypher State. Now, before we start, it's very important, as always, to make sure you are aware that any team member up on the stage here, we are guides to navigating the Cypher State, but we are certainly not your financial advisors. So in addition, any guests who do come up here and decide to come and speak with us, their opinions are their own. Nothing said in this space constitutes financial or investment advice. Just be aware, we're never going to give you financial advice on this space. So now we've got all that, the disclaimer out the way. Frederick, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing great. Happy to be in the space again. For everyone who doesn't know me yet, hello everyone, my name is Frederick. You can also find me as AStar on Discord and Twitter. I'm one of the software guys in the development team of Galactica. And maybe to give a small impression of what kind of topics I'm working on. Over this week, I was working on the Galactica Snap, which is basically a wallet extension for MetaMask that allows you to add Galactica-specific features to MetaMask. So you can hold your own zero-knowledge certificates in there in self-custody. You can create zero-knowledge proofs in there and then use them to interact on-chain. And I was basically preparing it for the audit. There's a lot of stuff to do, ironing a couple of things out that we're able to prove a lot of different zero-knowledge certificates and statements. And otherwise, I was working on the front-end integration with zero-knowledge backend and zero-knowledge circuits. And also another exciting thing we were working on this week was sparse Merkle trees. So that's a new kind of Merkle tree where you can put a lot of hashes, in our case, hashes of zero-knowledge certificates together. And you are able to revoke them again, because we found out a couple months ago that KYC guardians actually need this capability to revoke KYCs if they found that they haven't issued a KYC that was malicious or something like this. And therefore, we're implementing this new, at least for me, new technology, and it was quite exciting. Sorry, I don't know if I was speaking too long, but
that's
just
okay.
thought it might be interesting.
You know what? I don't think I've ever been on another space like with an L1 protocol or just about any kind of project in which you get like such a finger on the pulse kind of technical update every week. It's absolutely awesome. I love it, and that's an awful lot of zero knowledge you're dealing with there.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. That's right. But it's quite nice that nowadays there are also tools you can use that make it easier, and you don't have to do every mathematical little detail yourself, but you can actually use software frameworks that do a lot of work for you, and that you can more easily implement the use cases like Galactica that sit on top of zero-knowledge technology.
Yeah, no doubt. For anyone who doesn't know, so the zero knowledge, in more simple terms, what Frederick seems to have been working on is the wallet integration. So I'm sure everyone here uses MetaMask for one reason or another for EVM-based chains. So MetaMask actually has a development version called MetaMask Flask, and that one actually allows you to have an experimental set of extensions. So it will allow developers to create extensions which will extend the functionality of MetaMask. And this functionality, so we've been told, I think this is right, Frederick, is coming out in September. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the plan. So the MetaMask was experimenting and probably putting it out to developers for the last months. And now they feel confident enough and have improved it enough and got the feedback that they go into the audit and plan to release it in September. Meaning that from September on, it's probably in the stable version of MetaMask that everyone uses. And there you can then add different, they call it snaps, which are plugins that add functionality to MetaMask. So in our case, it's new capabilities that the front end can interact with the MetaMask wallet to do special things. But there are also a lot of other snaps that, for example, implement capabilities to work with other chains like Bitcoin or Cardano. There are snaps that add some UI elements to add more information about the transactions you're doing, and so on. So I think it's quite cool and quite exciting.
Yeah, me too. I mean, honestly, I think that probably makes well, I guess they're trying to aim for like MetaMask being the one-stop shop, as it were, for Web3 interaction. But as far as we're concerned, the most important part for us is that it basically allows you to self-sovereignly hold your like your ZK proofs, which is going to be it's just one of those that, like, increasing the ability to increasing your sovereignty is very important to us. Like the ability to actually own your assets, including not just your assets, but also your zero knowledge proofs, that kind of thing. It's incredibly important, and the snaps are what enable us to do that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really glad that MetaMask are working on this. Okay, guys. So I will just remind everyone, please, if you want to speak, if you want to ask any questions during this, or if you have any input on any of the news that we're about to bring up, or if you have any input on any of the questions or answers that we're going to go through a Q&A after the news section, please just request to speak. We're more than happy to speak and answer just about any question we can. Any question we can't, we can get answered. So that's we can do what we can. For everyone else or everyone in the space, please, if you could do us the favor, just jump down into the comment section of this space, give us a like and a retweet. It would really help us get out a bit more. We're trying to work on our social engagement a lot more. This is why we're doing all these spaces, and we're trying to just get out in the community a bit more and explain ourselves. We're a highly technical protocol, so obviously getting people to actually try and understand what we're building is paramount. So like I say, the likes and the retweets and the comments especially, they're very important to us. So if you could jump down and do that, that'd be great. Anyone who is interested at this point, I'll be explaining more about it later. But if you're interested right now and just finding out what we're doing, if you could just check out the pinned comment, you can jump in our Discord and you can try your luck on the Cypher State campaign and see if you can get an early GNC passport. And that would be a really good way for you to get early into the community and early into the ecosystem itself. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we've just got another request. In fact, from one of my favorite people, one of our highest ranked Discord members, Sen the Slayer. So welcome to the speaker panel, Sen. How you doing?
Hey, good, thanks. Nothing to say at the moment. Just being an active listener, and I thought I'd just request to be a speaker early rather than later, like you said.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. No, you're always welcome to come up, and that goes for anyone in the audience. You're always welcome to just come up. You can either raise your hand or you can just jump in when you feel like it's appropriate. Please be appropriate with it, though. and on just about anything we're talking about today. So we really appreciate having you up, Sam. Okay, guys. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to dive straight into the news. What we've got today for you is quite a few topics, actually. So we'll start off with the big one that's happened just recently in the last few hours. So the SEC, they've decided that all these spot Bitcoin ETF filings that have been sent in by likes of Fidelity and BlackRock, they are insufficient as far as they're just not clear enough for the SEC, is what they've been told. So the Securities and Exchange Commission, for anyone who doesn't know who they are, the US regulatory body that's basically deciding whether just how currently how Bitcoin and how cryptocurrency in general is regulated in the US. They're in a standoff with another regulatory entity who actually gets to regulate the industry. But right now the SEC seems to be just trying to regulate through enforcement and having a very hostile kind of outlook on crypto itself. Some very large investment entities, like I say, Fidelity, BlackRock, some of the biggest in the world, have filed for the opportunity for the chance to actually have a Bitcoin ETF, a spot ETF. But right now, the SEC is just basically saying there's not enough clarity. So one of the issues that they brought up in all this is that it's basically these ETFs have been submitted on the assumption that the surveillance sharing agreements that are within them will allow these ETF applications to get through the SEC's process, which basically means everything that goes through on one of these ETFs will be viewable by the SEC or by government entities, that kind of thing. So it's basically the same as TradFi as far as like the actual oversight is concerned. But the SEC is bringing up that they don't know which exchanges will be used. And I guess it should be noted that this is more of a pause than a ban. Like they haven't removed the applications; they've just paused them until this can be sorted out. So, Frederick, I've been talking for a while. What do you think on this one, man? On all these ETFs, do you think they're actually going to? Do you think the SEC is actually going to let any of this through, or do you think this is just a stalling tactic, or what?
To be honest, I have no idea what the SEC is up to, because it's sometimes really counterintuitive what they're saying and then what they're doing. But what I would like to comment is that I think it's a bit sarcastic and funny that the SEC is saying that there's not enough clarity because of how often the SEC is not providing enough details. For example, what a security is exactly in the crypto space. I think it's a bit sarcastic. And otherwise, I'm not too much informed about how it works and how it's going on, because I'm actually not living in the US. And I'm wondering, as a not US citizen, where all the other institutions are, or the other spot Bitcoin ETFs from other countries. I'm also not so much informed in these topics.
That's fair enough.
Maybe I just don't know it.
To be honest, I mean, it's difficult to keep track of all these things. It really is. There seems to be a new entity trying to get through the SEC's trap every other day at the moment. But I'm not entirely sure. I just don't see why I don't see how the US can move forward in this way, while every other country in the world seems to be actually regulating, if not with if not in completely on the side of crypto, at least in a way that is moderately transparent and makes some sense. It just seems like the US is just going to fall into this innovation trap where most of this massive burgeoning industry that we are building right now, it's just going to leave their shores. I mean, money moves and innovation moves when it can't innovate. So it just seems like a really bad plan and really short-sighted of the US, in my opinion. Sen, I don't know if you have an opinion on this one, mate, but I'm happy to ask.
Well, I'm not a very knowledgeable opinion, but I guess my feeling after all these years is I have a feeling that there's just bigger forces at play, and that they probably have some influence over the SEC, and it's become almost as much of a show as the president's power is in some way, and maybe there's other bigger strings being pulled here, and just what you said just before. Crypto seems inevitable, but I feel like the big money in the financial system and TradFi, they still make up the bulk majority of the power, and maybe they still don't want to let go of that power, and there might be some big level play underneath that we don't know about either. So cautiously optimistic about crypto and Bitcoin going forward.
From what I've heard from yourself and on all the spaces you've spoken, cautiously optimistic seems like your middle name. I love it. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be honest, crypto, crypto and Web3, it is inevitable. It is just as it says on the tin. It is immutable. It's unstoppable. This industry is not going anywhere. No one can turn it off. and as long as as long as the protocol is doing it right anyway. Basically, what we need now is to find some form of compromise that allows Web3 and traditional finance and traditional politics to get along and to actually work together in a way that makes sense. And that is exactly what Galactica Network is trying to do. So for anyone who is new here, anyone who's listening, Galactica Network, we're an L1 protocol, relatively new. We've been working on the protocol for like over a year and a half, very quietly. And now we're kind of at the point where we've got our DevNet. So we're very slowly onboarding developers to try and figure out all the new systems that we're building. And the reason why we're building is because we're offering something unique. We don't believe in building anything if it's not got some sort of unique proposition. We have a very unique proposition. So you can do everything on Galactica Network that you could do on any other EVM-based L1 chain, as far as finances go. However, Galactica Network actually offers enough Sybil resistance and a reputation framework that enables you to have brand new forms of DeFi, of DAOs, of governance, basically anything that requires reputation-based transactions. You can do that on Galactica Network, and it's baked into the protocol. It's at the protocol level. So you don't need any side chains. You don't need any of this stuff just to make it all work. It's all at the protocol level. So you can actually represent, we can represent real people and real social institutions on chain, which is it's a complete game changer for what you can actually do. So for instance, in DeFi and that kind of area, you can suddenly have under collateralized loans, which is something that, the DeFi space has been crying out for capital efficiency. You can have completely non-financial transactions if you want. You can set up social DAOs that have nothing to do with finance and actually make governance systems that work because they're not tied to that financial side of things, which always skews governance systems. So it's a very innovative protocol, and we're trying our best to make it we're trying to make it as equitable as possible for everyone who joins us. So it's going to be a very interesting protocol, and I suggest very much so that you just check out the pin tweet above, join our Discord, and ask us some questions. You can also request to speak on this space, and we're happy to ask any more questions. As I said, this is a community space. We actually have another space on a Tuesday, which is more like with our upcoming partners, with various other speakers on more focused topics. Okay, I feel like I've monologued again. I do apologize. I do love the sound of my own voice. I'll make sure we move on to the next piece of news. So what we've got today, in addition to the ETF stuff, is the European Central Bank. Basically, they're exploring financial market settlement based on DLTs. So getting that some of those TradFi systems on chain. On the DLT, should be very specific there. So this is basically in the run up to their rolling out their CBDCs. Obviously, the EU is actually pretty far along on their CBDC ride. So we'll have to see how that comes. So yeah, this is all happening in the next few months and into 2024. So I think the EU is actually doing pretty well as far as regulation and as far as being clear about what they want and about getting their CBDC out there. The only thing that we haven't really seen from the EU yet is integration into the wider kind of crypto space and how CBDCs will interact with that. I don't know if you've seen anything about that, Frederick, or not.
I think it's quite nice how the EU is trying to make progress there, at least. And I think they're also doing a couple of good steps. But on the other hand, I think it's often also a bit uncertain what the end result will actually look like, because so sometimes I see these good developments, for example, with the recently passed EU regulation of MiCA, and sometimes the EU also proposes really strange dystopian things, like banning chat encryption and so on. So I think I would like to wait for the end result before saying if it's good or not. But I think it's really nice that they're at least experimenting with it and trying to pick up some of the technology that they call it DLT, so distributed ledger technology. And I think there's a lot of good things to learn from what we're doing on a blockchain space and maybe integrating into some of the systems they want to build. Because somehow I can also understand that they want to stay in control of the monetary system the ECB has and improve it technology-wise. But on the other hand, it's really unfortunate that they don't embrace what's evolving in the ecosystem as much as they could.
Yeah, no doubt, and I don't think any nation state is going to hit it nail on the head the first time. I really don't think they will. But like you say, I think the EU is doing a good job of of trying, and also the UK. I think the UK is doing a good job of trying as well. So I mean, they've actually just had. They've basically just signed into law a regulation of cryptocurrencies and stablecoins. So they're one of the first to actually get stablecoins regulated. And that happened just yesterday, I think. So that law basically treats all crypto as regulated activity, which is fine. Obviously, in the TradFi sector, it makes sense. And brings stablecoins under their payment rules framework. Sorry. So it's basically the UK is genuinely trying to become like a tech and stroke crypto hub of the world. And I think a lot of countries are trying to do that while the US is messing around trying to figure out who actually has control of this stuff. So it'd be very interesting to see like a shift in tech and innovation, maybe from like the West Coast of America or something like that over to the UK, over to EU. And obviously Dubai as well. They're very big in Portugal. Those kind of areas. We'll have to see how that rolls out. Sen, do you have any input on the kind of like like how you would like to see crypto kind of integrated into the TradFi kind of sector?
Yeah, not so much. Just I guess I just echo whatever Cyrus Fazel and the Swissborg team has in mind, which is I guess compliance from the very beginning of crypto projects with these TradFi and financial institutions and government regulations as well. And I do agree. And mass adoption for mass adoption to happen, you do need to be compliant and have regulations in place. So might as well from the very beginning work with the inevitable landscape that is to come out, and play ball together instead of being so kind of idealistic too much.
Yeah, I mean they're being idealistic and they're being insular. Like a lot of these people are trying to be too insular with everything rather than trying to work with each other. And that's one of the things I love about Web3 and crypto is that most of the people in this space do attempt at least to work together for the betterment of everyone, which is a fantastic kind of comment on the state of real people. Like you see society, and you see a lot of society represented by centralized governments. And what I think that crypto kind of shows is that when people just get together in a decentralized manner, they're generally good and they are generally trying to work towards a better future for everyone. So it just gives me a lot of hope when dealing with crypto and Web3, and it's something I really appreciate.
And just to shill and add on to what Galactica Network's doing, as long as the people are good, decentralized, as long as there's reputation there. If there isn't a reputation and people are somewhat pseudonymous, that it's kind of like the behavior that you get from people when they're in a car and they're going past you and they kind of yell things at you But if they're walking next to you, then they're quite, they're kind of a different person. So I think having a reputation on chain is pretty important as an incentive for people's behavior. Not unfortunately, one would rather people just acted with integrity to begin with, but sometimes having the score there and the reputation there as a factor, at the end of the day, does incentivize and drive the kind of behaviors that you'd want people to go towards. I guess en masse.
100%, mate. Yeah, I agree, Sen. And I don't know, like having this pseudonymity, it kind of does bring out the extremes of things, I guess. So it brings out the very best, and it also brings out the very worst in people. If you have the ability to just disappear at a moment's notice without a trace, then yeah, there's going to be some bad actors. But that's as you correctly identified. That's exactly why we're bringing in reputation at the protocol level. So again, for anyone who's new or perhaps just not familiar, Galactica Network, we are attempting to bring in essentially what you would call a persistent identity. So you know what, I'll start in a more sensible place. So the real issue that Sen was really alluding to there is Sybil resistance. So this is obviously just the ability of people to make a cheap, easily duplicated account, and basically make issue of a blockchain's government system, or basically just overcome security, that kind of thing, through malicious use of multiple accounts, of multiple easily duplicated accounts. So this is an issue in all of blockchain, as I'm sure you're all aware. All of you have probably got like multiple accounts yourselves. And you probably use them to mint multiple NFTs, that kind of thing, on like an NFT drop, that sort of thing. And there's nothing, most of the time that's not malicious, but a few a small number of very prolific actors do use Sybil attacks for very malicious reasons. And it basically undermines a lot of the forms of governance that is currently available on blockchain. So basically, the Galactica Network tries to tackle the Sybil resistance problem in two ways. Firstly, it's through a decentralized private ZK KYC on chain. So you can use one of our guardians through when you have your Galactica Network citizenship passport. You go to the passport website. You can select any number of accredited KYC off-chain KYC providers, and then you can actually have an on-chain KYC from them, which those KYC providers have no idea who they are, they can't link an address on-chain to documentation off-chain through the power of zero-knowledge cryptography. That's why we're so big into ZK. But you can, the end result is you get a KYC certificate on chain that can be used to transact in a compliant manner on chain. So that kind of ability to have accounts that are identifiable while maintaining their privacy is the first step in having a Sybil resistant chain and a Sybil resistant network. But then the second part of the equation is our persistent identities. So a persistent identity is essentially your reputation on chain. It's the sum total of your transactions, of your SPTs, basically your entire account's history makes up your persistent identity. And that persistent identity is obviously always going to be growing over time. So assuming that you have a singular account tied to a singular human, and that human is constantly using the account and always adding transactions and always adding SPTs, always just using it in general, the complexity of that account is always going to grow over time. And when the account complexity grows, the actual cost of duplicating that account, and therefore the ability for it to be duplicated in the form of a Sybil attack, it gets reduced dramatically, to the point where Sybil resistance on Galactica Network becomes almost a non-issue for standard use. And once you have such a level of Sybil resistance, and then you add a reputation framework on top of that, you end up in the situation, as I described before, where you can have like DAOs that actually work, where you can design a government system that is based on people rather than on money. And you can have DeFi that's the same. You could have a DeFi protocol that rewards you for using the protocol, but then allows you to get, like, it might reward you with an SBT or something like that. It might add something to your persistent identity that allows you access to something else on a completely different section of the chain, on a completely different dApp. You know, it's this social framework that allows you to interact on chain in a completely unique way that you haven't really done on blockchain before. So we're very excited about that, as you can probably tell, because I'm monologuing again. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I
also just wanted to... Yeah. I'll go for it, Brett.
That's also one of my favorite properties of Galactica, that the zero-knowledge technology, where you can prove statements without actually showing the underlying data that you want to keep private because it's personal, that it allows so many new use cases where you can actually put your personal data on chain and then also use it for new kinds of use cases, and that this then gives you the possibilities to build, for example, DAOs where you can have a really democratic vote where every human gets a vote and not every token. So we really like this shift from the old financial centric DAOs to more social reputation and human-based DAOs that are possible on Galactica.
100%, man. It's just everything. I really do believe it's everything. It's going to be like I think once we end up with frameworks like Galactica's, where you can be private, you can transact in a compliant manner with your reputation. It adds up all those features that allow you to have like a real analog of society on chain. And that's one of the other tenets of Galactica Network, is that we're trying to get all the way to the point where we have a fully sovereign Cypher State, is what we're calling it, on chain. So it's just an analog of a nation state. So, you know, if you lived in Portugal, then the Cypher State would be Portugal, and it would be an analog of Portugal. And the governance, it would have the Cypher State itself that we're building. It has a meritocratic governance system. It has all these reputation features. So hopefully, once we're finished building, you'll be able to. It will be a completely citizen-led protocol. So this is why we're offering the Galactica Network citizenships. Again, if you can check the pinned tweet at the top that I've pinned up there, that's the best way to get in early. Essentially, if you get high enough in the Cypher State campaign through the Zealy and through the Discord and all the stuff that's in there, you can actually end up with an institutional grade GNC, which basically gets you in earlier. So all the GNCs are ostensibly the same, but the earlier you get in, the more of the inflation reward you get. So being early does matter. Sen, please, you got your hand up, man.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add onto your point that it's not. I don't see it as just blockchain either, specifically, but it's something that's Web2's trying to tackle as well. For instance, in YouTube or Booking.com, Uber, we do rely on people's comments, and sometimes you can just have some dude that was upset for whatever reason at something, and he'll create a comment, and, you know, like give a bad rating, create a bad comments, but there's no like they're just building it out now. They have some form of rudimentary reputation system, even in Web 2, but it's not it's not that comprehensive either. And sometimes, for instance, it will be good, even in Booking.com, to have a fully fleshed out reputation system where some people's comments are taken more seriously than other people's comments as well. Just want to add that it's not just a blockchain issue, but it's something that's is an issue in Web 2 as well.
That's a good example.
For sure, yeah, and I think digital reputation has been a goal for a long time. And one of the problems, I guess, in Web 2, like in just standard digital reputation, obviously in Web 2, it's a lot easier to get a Sybil resistant, just the Sybil resistance up to the point where you could do this. But then you have the problem of the fact that it's completely centralized. It's editable on a database essentially. So it becomes the trust becomes an issue there, and I don't think there's many reputation frameworks that have been widely adopted, even in Web 2. Like I say, I think the properties of blockchain really lend themselves to reputation. It just hasn't really been possible so far because it's because of the Sybil resistance aspect and the fact that you can. You don't have the ability to maintain your privacy previously before the advent of all this zero knowledge tech and it becoming so efficient as it has over the last few years. So yeah, I think, like I say, I think blockchain, if we can lick this reputation and lick the social aspect, I think it's the future of everything. It really is. I'm just going to do a quick reset, guys, because we've been having a great chat. I really appreciate it. But I'd like to just make sure anyone who's new or anyone who's joined recently just gets the information. You're currently listening to the Galactica Callcast. This is the Friday space. We are one of two spaces that we do every week. We do this one, which is our community space. On a Tuesday, we do a more topics focused kind of space with various partners. So that one's really interesting if you just want to listen in. This community-based space, though, I really appreciate whenever anyone decides to request to speak. We love having people up. We love talking shop. We love just talking blockchain or Web3 in general. So if you have anything really interesting you want to say, or if you really have anything interesting you want to just talk about, please just request to speak. All you need to do is just click on the little heart button at the bottom of the screen here and click on the big hand, and you can request to speak it down there. And we're always happy to have you up. If you can also just make sure you double check and go down to the comment section of this space and give us a like and a retweet on the space, we'd be eternally grateful. We're basically a very young system right now, a young ecosystem right now. We've only really just started getting going socially. So anyone who likes and retweets, it's very valuable for us. We really appreciate it. And again, if you would like to find out more about what Galactica Network is up to, just check out the pinned tweet. That is our Cypher State campaign. Simply join Discord and follow the instructions in the tweet, and you should be able to figure out how to get started. And if you follow through with it, and you manage to get up the ranks and contribute to our technical and social development through the Cypher State campaign, then we will reward you in the form of various rewards, anything from Discord rights at the very bottom to participation NFTs, that kind of thing, which will probably be quite useful in the future. I'm thinking testnets and things like that. So definitely worthwhile figuring out if you can get any participation NFTs. And also at the top end, you can end up with your Galactica Network citizenship. And you can get your Galactica Network citizenship in multiple of the distribution waves, depending on how high a rank you get. So you definitely want to be joining into the Cypher State campaign if you can. And if you have the time, please do. Okay, everyone. So I think we've got actually one more news topic. It's very quick. It's more of a conspiracy theory, I think. But in any case, Terra, basically, it's come out in the last couple of days that there's been a few historical things that have been dragged up about Tether and its links with China. So essentially, Tether's founders seem to have a bit of a history of business relations with China, which is fine and fair enough, including a virtual goods company and an electronics import and export business. So Tether and Bitfinex, both started by the same people, were founded in Hong Kong, but had no visible operations at their registered address. That's interesting. Tether has a connection with Zhao Dong, which is a Chinese entrepreneur who laundered money for online casinos. So Tether is apparently also very commonly used for gambling in China, which I did not know. But Tether is used by Chinese merchants in Russia for money transfers back to China, and is suspected to be used for capital trading, evading capital controls in China. So it's all sorts of very interesting just tidbits about Tether's use in the Chinese mainland. But basically, it kind of revolves around their use of the term commercial paper and various other securities connected to banks and entities in China being sought by institutional traders, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what all this means, because it's not really my area of expertise. But for anyone who's interested in Tether and any of its links to China, there you go. It's one of the things that came up in the news this week. Frederick, I don't know if you have any more context, or Sen, if you have more context on this one.
No, not much more context.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I'm not sure anyone would. But in any case, this is just the nature of some of the news that comes out of blockchain. But it's some of it's insightful, and some of it's like I say, this one seems more like a conspiracy theory to me. We'll have to see how that one pans out. Okay, guys. So I would just like to just bring this all the way back because Frederick, in his introduction, because he's an absolutely fantastic guy, gave us a lot of tech updates on what's actually going on the technical level for Galactica Network. So I don't know if you perhaps want to just repeat that, Frederick, for anyone who's new, because it was very good information, and it was actually part of the show for about an hour. So I don't know if you want to just let everyone know, just in a very short form, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I can also try to explain it a bit better than in the beginning. But yeah, what we're doing basically in the last week was continuing to improve our MetaMask snap, which is a wallet extension that adds Galactica features to MetaMask. And we are preparing it for an audit, because when MetaMask allows new snaps to be added as plugins, they require in the first phase an audit from all these snaps, and to make sure that our snap doesn't do anything malicious, and that all the zero-knowledge certificates with personal data you put into self-custody of the wallet, that this is secure, and also that the zero-knowledge proofs you can create out of it are secure. We are now preparing it for an audit. And then the goal is to be ready in September, so that we can be part of the launch of the Snap ecosystem into the stable version of MetaMask. And then the other exciting thing that happened this week is we made good progress on KYC revocations. So we learned a couple of months ago, speaking to experts of how KYCs work at traditional KYC centers, is that they need to have a possibility to revoke KYCs. So, for example, if there is a bad actor who got a KYC issued maliciously, and I don't know, a week later the KYC center receives notice that this was actually, I don't know, a black market passport used for verification, that they need a possibility to revoke the KYC they issued. And this was not possible before on how we implemented it, because what we're using there is a data structure called a Merkle tree, where you can put a lot of data into a smart contract, and these hashes are then hashed together into a single root of the tree. And this is really nice because you can prove that your ZK-KYC is part of this tree without publicly disclosing which hash it actually is. So it's really nice for privacy reasons. And to do these verifications, we had to change it a little bit. So now it's called a sparse Merkle tree. The difference is that you don't just add to the tree, but you can actually change positions in the tree. And yeah, my colleague worked on it, I reviewed it, and now we are integrating it into the system where you have the front end interacting with the wallet, the smart contracts, and also the zero knowledge circuits that verify that everything is done correctly.
Absolutely wonderful, man. Thank you for that. So yeah, guys, like I say, we're really trying to make sure that anyone who's capable of keeping up is kept apprised of basically what we're doing at every stage. As I said before, Galactica Network is aiming to be completely citizen-led. It's as you kind of may have been aware from the way we've been speaking about the protocol. We've got a meritocratic governance system. We're basically trying to ensure that every citizen has all the power to either change the protocol, to basically just have their voice heard. We're all about equity, fairness, just trying to make sure that everyone's efforts and everyone's contributions are weighed, valued, and rewarded in the right way, and all of it being verifiable and immutable on chain. This is something that is currently not available in blockchain, and we want to make it available. And with the current, with the advancement of with ZK, with ZK Tech and stuff like that, we're now able to actually get this stuff on chain. So we're trying to be the first to do it, basically. And I think we've come up with a very interesting framework in order to get all this done. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting time, guys. It really is, and I couldn't recommend just joining the Discord and asking questions, or jumping up on this stage and asking questions more, because we're basically open books. We're going to try and answer every question we can. And speaking of that, we'll be moving on to the Q&A section. We'll probably do that for about maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that, and see if how many questions that you've given us we can get through. And anyone else who has a burning question about Galactica Network, even if it's just what are we actually doing, we're happy to answer that kind of thing too. So yeah, and we're happy to just meet a few of our community members. It's great to hear your voices up here whenever you decide to come up. So please don't be shy. We certainly don't bite. In fact, we're quite friendly sometimes, occasionally. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll just say if you could just like and retweet the space once again, we really appreciate that. And I think what we'll do is we'll move on to the Q&A section of the space. Before I do, I'll just remind everyone that our YouTube channel. So we have a YouTube channel. I believe you can actually access that through our Twitter profile or through the Cypher State campaign or any of our recent tweets. We basically try and release YouTube shorts to try and explain the more technical aspects of Galactica Network in sort of bite-sized chunks to make it a bit more understandable for people. So we realize it's a very technical protocol and there's some very high-flying ideas. So we try and make that a bit more simple. We also release recaps of these spaces. So 2 of those every week. We try and put in timestamps and all that kind of thing to make it easier to navigate. So you can get to the kind of content that you feel like you want to listen to as quickly as you can, without all the introductions and without all the extra bands that we try and have up here. So yeah, if you want to check out, if you want to get the most up-to-date information on Galactic Network, you want to join our Discord and subscribe to our YouTube. Those are the 2 probably best ways of doing it. Okay, I hope you're ready, Frederick. We're going to see if we can get through some questions. I don't really have too many attributions here, so we'll have to see if you guys submitted a question and I asked your question. I'm sorry if I don't attribute your name to it. I'll do my best. Okay, so
let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. So the very first question is, what is the launch ETA? And funnily enough, Sen, actually, I just saw your comment in the space. And I can't confirm nor deny. That's all I can say there. I don't know what to say there, because the testnet, for instance, the testnet, we're aiming for around 3-4 months from now. So that it could be around that time. We'll have to see. And which, as Sen I think is rightly pointing out, that it does kind of coincide with the release of Mask Snap and the extensions. So as far as the mainnet goes, we are actually aiming for around Q1 2024. Obviously, that's a loose date. We're going to try our best on that front. but we want to have a very successful test net before we go into mainnet. So that's our aim, that's our goal. We'll have to see how we get there on that. Frederick, you have your hand up, please.
Yeah, and maybe just to give a little bit of context why we have these states or these approximations is because they actually depend on a couple of things. For example, as you already noticed, that the tested launch coincides with when MetaMask is trying to launch their the step system, is that basically makes sense that if we can add Galactica wallet features to MetaMask and people can use it without installing the development version of MetaMask, that it's actually much simpler to use it, and therefore we hope that also the adoption rate is larger and we get more feedback. And another reason for this date is that the audits probably need some time, and depending on the feedback we get from auditors, we might also have to change a couple of things. But given that we already have the proof of concept and the internal development network that we are testing on, and given access to the first partners, we're actually confident that we have the basis. We just need to improve it, get it audited, and also usable before we can launch the testnet. And then the mainnet launch is, of course, a bit further out and therefore also more uncertain. And I think one of the things we depend on for the mainnet launch is also the integration of a couple of partners. For example, the KYC guardians, who will then review actual identity documents to then issue the zero knowledge KYCs on chain, so that you can use this data while staying private. And these external partners also need some time to integrate the solutions, to establish the processes, and so on. And therefore, I, for example, personally do not know how long they take. And we have our technology ready by then, and also listen for their feedback on what they want. And that's just what I wanted to add.
Oh, that's perfect, mate. Yeah. We're basically trying to take a very conservative approach to the development. As I've said before, we've kind of already been in development for about a year and a half already. Just trying to get a lot of it's been trying to figure out just how all these complicated governance and reputation systems will work. And obviously implementing all these things at this point is now the main priority. So as I said before, we have our DevNet out. So if any devs are listening, please, if you can just get in touch with us through the website. You can also sign up for the DevNet itself and get access to that. So that allows you to basically just check out the very earliest aspects of Galactica networks as you get KYC network framework. So that's a very it's already one of those big pillars that we want to just make sure works fully before we start everything else. And obviously, I'm personally massively looking forward to the testnet and getting getting all of you guys involved, because it's going to be huge, and we're going to do all sorts of fun social transactions and getting all these reputation-based transactions and DAOs and all these incredible things that I've been talking about. Get those tested and running. So I'm really looking forward to doing that with you guys. It's going to be a blast. Okay, so next question: could Galactica face regulatory issues if the GNET token is deemed a security? Well, I think almost any governance token is in the same boat on this. I would say that that's basically for the regulators and for the lawyers and for those kind of people of the world to decide, and we'll move from there. It's as simple as that. In any case, we'll just have to see on that front. I'm afraid I can't really give a more comprehensive answer than that. Frederick, I don't know if you have anything else to say on that, but that's pretty much it.
But basically the same. I also think the same.
Yeah, I figured as much. Okay, so the third question we have: are there any requirements, any official requirements for forming a sovereign Cypher state? Now, this is an interesting one, and it's honestly probably a bit beyond my purview. But I would say currently I doubt there's the regulatory framework for it. Frederick, I don't know if you know of any regulatory framework for actually instituting a sovereign Cypher state.
I guess it depends a bit on how you define a sovereign Cypher state, and I think there it already gets a bit philosophical on what the requirements are. But I'm open for input there on what properties you actually want from a sovereign Cypher state and what we should implement, because that would be nice to know.
Yeah, for sure, and it'd be one of those things where it would have to be accepted and accepted by traditional nation states, I suppose, in one way or another. And obviously, a Cypher state, a successful Cypher state, has to have just about everything that you have in regular society. So a lot of the stuff that we've already discussed about Galactic's network, you would have to have citizens of the protocol. You would have to have effective, fair governance. You would have to have an enforcement layer, either through code or by any other means. All sorts of other things, which, like I say, this stuff is very philosophical in some ways and probably goes way beyond my purview. So I hope that gives you an indication of an answer to the question, but I know it doesn't actually answer the question itself. But we'll do our best with some of these, because that's a big one. Sen, do you think? Would you like to live in a fully sovereign Cypher state?
Well, that was actually the question I asked. So interesting there. I think I meant it more in a regulation way, whether someone's going to have some issue down the line as this is forming out. It's like, hey, we don't allow you to be what you set out to be. Just looking ahead to see whether there might be roadblocks ahead. I guess that was my more towards my question, because it does get philosophical, like you said, to try and define.
Yeah, can you just tell me if you can hear me still? Because I think my screen.
Yeah, not clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just before I rug, then can you? I'll just repeat the. I'll just give you the next question, and then I'll probably have to reconnect. Is there a risk that if a KYC provider is corrupt and takes bribes, that they could unlawfully get a KYC certificate on chain? Sorry, that was a difficult question. That was a difficult sentence.
Yeah, actually, I was very grateful for this question. I already gave a short answer on Discord. Yeah, but I'm grateful for the question because it really shows the involvement of some of the people we have in the community, that they actually read the documents we put out, understand how it works, and then find such issues that either we didn't explain enough or that really are problematic, or we at least have to think about a lot. And what I would say is, yes, there is a risk that a KYC provider who is malicious could actually cause problems for the chain, because we put these KYC providers as guardians, and they can issue zero-knowledge certificates. Dave, could you please mute yourself? Dave, I'm hearing your echo, and I cannot mute you.
Yeah, he must have rugged himself.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's better now because I don't hear myself anymore. What I was saying, that we have KYC centers who can issue these zero-knowledge KYCs, and that when we have the zero-knowledge KYC, it's mostly private, meaning that when a user bases a zero-knowledge proof on this in the statement, the personal data isn't shown. So therefore, it's difficult to see if the KYC behind the zero-knowledge KYC is actually legit or not. And there are a couple strategies how we mitigate it, and we already thought about this a couple of months ago. And yeah, I would basically mention 3 points we have in mind right now. The first one is that when you use a zero-knowledge KYC to prove a statement, like being a real human voting in a DAO, you're adding information on who the KYC guardian was. So that on chain, you can check later which this KYC provider is, and check if this one is on a blacklist. Or you can compare it to maybe a reputation of the provider to see how legitimate this is. The second part is that the zero-knowledge KYC is only a first step for what we imagine the future of Galactica to be, because it proves that you're a human and not a bot, but it's not a lot of the persistent identity that Dave was presenting in the beginning of the Twitter space, that adds the social reputation based on what you were doing on the chain and what you were contributing, for example, in governance processes or in participating in certain protocols. And this social aspect being built on top of being an account backed by a real human, we think is actually a bigger part in the long term than just the zero-knowledge certificate itself. And then the third point is maybe how could malicious KYC guardians be identified? And here we have a system in place that is meant mostly for compliant reasons, because there's already another use case for protocols like lending protocols or perpetual dexes, where you can trade real-world assets like securities and stocks and so on, that they probably already need KYC or a method to investigate fraud on the platform. And these devs can then decide to add a fraud investigation part to their zero-knowledge proof. And when you as a user want to use such a platform, you encrypt part of the personal data that makes your zero-knowledge KYC identifiable. So if fraud is happening on chain and it can be identified that this doesn't make sense, there is a system on how legal authorities can decrypt the personal data that you disclose transparently in the zero-knowledge proof to be able to backtrace this hash to a KYC guardian. And then the legal authority has a trace to the KYC guardian, where they can request personal details of the person. And this process then basically would uncover a malicious KYC provider issuing invalid ZK KYCs. But what I would like to add as an information to this process is that it sounds like you are disclosing data that is that can be used for legal authorities to uncover who the person is behind the ZK KYC. But the nice thing on Galactica is that this process is actually transparent. So when you as a user prove a statement, you see actually what the compliance requirements of the dApp you want to use are, and then you see to which institutions you are actually giving this possibility. So I think it's a huge improvement to what we currently have, where you're using a centralized system and you don't know all the backdoors that are in the system. On Galactica, this is transparent. if a DApp is actually having such a compliant process or not. Yeah, so maybe I went a bit too far, but I thought it would be good to add a bit of context about this, because I think the question is really good, and there is a concern that a KYC provider could do malicious stuff, but we put a lot of thoughts on how we could actually mitigate and prevent this.
That was amazing, Fred. Well done. Yeah, there's as you can see, there's an awful lot of thought that goes into providing on-chain KYC, especially when you're trying to maintain user privacy at the same time. So I hope you guys appreciate just how much work is going into the ZK KYC framework on Galactica Network, because it boggles my mind sometimes. Okay, so that was a very thorough answer, absolutely fantastically put, Frederick. Thanks, man. We actually have a new speaker on stage. I didn't even see you come up because I managed to run. I apologize. How you doing, Native?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. Thanks for letting me up, man. Loving these spaces, man. I'm looking forward to these every week. Look, I'll be quick. I'll throw my question out there. It seems, I think Galactica is built on the Cosmos SDK, which it sounds like in the future, it's going to allow other protocols to leverage reputation data from Galactica network. So the way I'm reading that, does that mean so the Galactica citizens can take the reputation they've built on Galactica network in the future possibly and take it over to other chains? And if I'm reading that right, does that mean possibly people from other chains might be able to bring their reputation over to Galactica network?
As far as my understanding is, that would I think that would be something for a deep future in which another protocol came up with a sufficiently complex reputation framework that would be in any way compatible with our own, would it not, Frederick?
Yeah. Thanks for the question. It's really good. This is actually one of the things we were aiming for, and one of the reasons why we chose the Cosmos SDK, because the IBC and the possibilities it has for cross-chain communication actually allow for such synergies. So I'm really excited for it. But to be honest, it also depends a lot on the integrations. So even if we add the possibilities to use your reputation from Galactica on other chains and to use the zero knowledge proofs about being a real human or being over 18 years old or something like this, that you can transfer quite easily with IBC communication to other chains, it still depends on other chains and protocols on these chains to integrate it, actually to read from it. So I guess this is something that will evolve over time, and as Galactica grows and as the use cases grow on other chains, I think more and more of those links will be established.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, it should really be noted that obviously, like I say, IBC is, as Frederick said, is one of the primary reasons we decided to go with Cosmos, and that's for a good reason. And it's obviously a very secure interoperability layer, and it's the only interoperability layer we've really come across that has yet to have a major hack of any kind, which is a really good track record. It's a really good track record. And if we're going to export our reputation in any way, it's going to be that way. Sorry, Nathan, please.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for the answer, boys. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I mean, if you spend so much time building a good reputation, say on Galactica Network, it would be handy to be able to take that over to another network, if that is possible via interoperability in the future. So you don't have to start from square one again if you have built, a very good reputation. But cheers, boys. Thanks for the answer, and yeah, loving these spaces. Awesome.
Andre, copy Andre.
That's okay, man. I don't know what just happened in your background, but yeah.
So I'm on a construction site, man. There's about 400 people around me. So cheers, boys.
No worries. Yeah, tell the boys to join the Cypher State campaign.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. I think the ability to export your reputation to perhaps a more financially just a standard financial layer, like a standard blockchain would be very valuable. I do. It would allow them to open up the same, well, not the same, but not to the same level, but it would allow them to greatly expand the abilities of their chain if they could have a reputation layer that was trusted. But as Frederick says, it requires an awful lot of integrations and an awful lot of work. Sen, you have your hand up, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on to the possible ability to export reputation as well as import reputation. It would be analogous to the project that I'm kind of in at the moment called The Other Side, Yuga Labs Metaverse project, where they're saying they're going to step up to the plate and be the project that tries to attempt to set the standard to which all other projects can either join if they want to. So they're going to say, we're gonna use this language, we're going to build reputation this way, in the same way that they set the HTML standard for all web pages to follow thereafter to form the internet. They're going to go, well, we're going to build our metaverse using JavaScript on this language, and any project that wants to be interoperable with us, well, here it is. It's open source. This is how we're going to do it. So perhaps maybe Galactica could be the ones to set the standards. This is the protocol we expect. Anyone who wants to have a reputation layer that comes in and out from our system can follow these requirements. Perhaps I'm no dev, but just from
standards, they're not always set by the first movers, but they're generally informed by them. And I think, and basically, a standard, it requires both being early into an idea, and it requires good actors actually trying to work towards a better future for whatever the standard is being set for. So I think Galactica meets all those requirements, and I don't see why we couldn't, to be honest. Okay, everyone. Native, I think you have your hand up, but I'm not sure if you actually mean to or not. In any case, if anyone else wishes to jump up, we're probably going to be online for another maybe 10 minutes or so with another question and a bit of a wrap up. So we probably have enough time for another community question if you want. So if you want to ask a question, feel free to request to speak, and we'll let you up as quickly as we can and see if we can get your questions answered. For anyone else, if you could give us a like and a retweet on the space, that would be super helpful, and it would get the recording of this space out to more people and educate some more people. So thank you for that. Sen, you have your hand up again, please.
Yeah, this is to AStar. It must be in my head, it must be such a logistical nightmare to encapsulate a system for reputation and programming, to try and program out reputation that way. Just in my own head, going through it, how we were talking about reputation on the Discord channel as well. I've been thinking about that concept. So just wanted to hear from the person that's programming it, how does it work? And it just, over my head, how one would start the landscape of trying to build a framework, a base layer that people can start accruing some kind of score on. And on that note, the talk that we had about reputation, I shared a link here. I was thinking through, perhaps we could learn something from the social score that China uses already on a lot of their cities. And I'm just wondering whether the teams kind of looked into how China uses, what kind of framework they use to build their social score, because they're so far ahead in that field.
You're actually right. It's really a challenge to build such a system. because there are a lot of aspects and properties you want to get, and that somehow also contradict themselves. So, for example, we want the reputation to be really expressive, meaning that you can include a lot of different metrics and have reputation about different kinds of things. And on the other hand, also have it secure and be efficiently and fast in computation and so on. And I'm actually not the main person working on it. I'm just involved in the process, reviewing a couple of things, giving inputs. And we also needed a lot of iterations until we got to the system we are working on right now. In the beginning, we were trying to do a lot directly on EVM smart contracts and integrate the zero-knowledge proofs that you can, for example, include in your reputation or that you are with.
Sorry, Frederick, did your mic just change very suddenly, or is it just me?
I heard it too.
I think Frederick may have just rugged. I do apologize, Sen, if he was answering your question.
That's all good. That's all good. These things happen.
What I will input on this, though, on the subject of like inspiration for reputation systems and China's social score system, that kind of thing. Obviously, there's a good reason why blockchain is simply a better system for most systems like this, financial or social, which is that. Sorry, 2 seconds. I'm just going to get up AStar again. Which is that basically it's immutable and code is law. So you don't have the human element messing up the fairness of everything. And you don't just have some guy in one district saying one thing and some guy in another district saying another thing about what reputation is, and they can't be coerced. Code can't be coerced. So it's like a social score in a situation where corruption, like a corrupt enforcement layer exists, is not really much of a social score. It doesn't really have much relevance and not much trust. Whereas a reputation system, if it's implemented correctly and maintained correctly, it can be the future of everything, and it can be a fair system for everyone with enforcement through code. So I think that would be my input there.
Yeah, agreed. And as well as obviously the privacy layer as well, right? Where this is all happening without giving up your privacy around it, which is also super awesome. I guess.
Yeah,
I guess the reason why I wanted to share that was like the Chinese social credit system, which I will probably look into more in depth, but like there's a lot to be learned from there, and hopefully to apply all the positives of Galactica Network into implementing how you can measure someone's social score or reputation score in a code based way, as well as privacy, like kind of maintained as well.
Yeah, I think one other thing I will just mention on this subject, because I think we've just actually got Frederick back on stage, so that's great. But I will just mention that I think one of the primary inspirations we had for the reputation system will have come, well, a couple of the primary inspirations will have come from the Network State, which is a really good book. Some of it's we've drawn from, some of it we haven't, but it's a really good book for you guys to read through if you're interested in governance systems and various other things. And also Vitalik's paper last year. So in summer last year, I think Vitalik and various others, Eric Whale, a couple and another, I believe, released a paper called "Decentralized Society: Finding Web3's Soul." This is the paper that basically laid the foundation for the concept of soulbound tokens in a meaningful way. Anyway, And it also laid the foundation for the kind of reputation system the Galactica network is built on, like using past history to inform a Web3 footprint, and basically having like identity on chain that way. So that's another really good resource for you guys to check out if you're interested in what kind of informed us and our opinions on some of the reasons why we did some of the things we did. You should definitely check out that paper. So again, Decentralized Society, Finding Web3 Soul. It's by Vitalik Buterin, Eric Whale, and one other, which I will remember at some point. I'll put in Discord. But you should definitely give that a read. It's a very impressive paper and for something we've drawn from a lot. How you doing, Frederick? I'm glad you come back. You okay?
Hey, yeah, sorry for that. Something happened, and then my Twitter app decided to reconnect myself. But now it looks good again.
Yeah, we can blame Elon for that.
Yeah. So Sen, you also asked about how it works, right? Maybe I can give a small summary and try to keep it short.
Please.
But one of the main things that, in my opinion, makes Galactica's reputation system different from social credit score in China is that on our system, it's actually user definable on what the reputation actually means. So every user can create a reputation function, and every debt can create a reputation function to decide on what they think the person interacting with them should have in their persistent identity history. So, and the way to implement it, we chose for a couple of reasons, mainly that it needs to be efficient enough to be computed in a fast way and also decentralized enough. Therefore, we chose to integrate it in the blockchain node. And here it's really convenient that we are using the Cosmos SDK because it really allows you to build custom software modules that are then integrated into the blockchain system in a really nice way. And what the node is then doing is first it's reading a definition of what, for example, a debt decided reputation should be and what data it should be based on. So it defines the source data of whether it's actually a field in a smart contract or whether it's transactions you have done with a certain address, or whether it's if you have provided a zero-knowledge KYC or not. And this information, the source data, is then processed by the node after the definition and aggregated into what we call a metric. So, for example, the source data, how often you interacted with an address, is in the whole blockchain history. And the node once goes through this history and, for example, counts the sum of your transactions or an average, or maybe it's comparing every transaction to a blacklist if you ever interacted with a blacklisted protocol, for example. And then this is aggregated into a single score that is kept up to date and can be, for example, the sum or a flag if you ever have interacted with a bad address or not. And these metrics then in the last step are calculated together with a couple building blocks we provide. So you can do, again, a sum, or you can take a maximum or whatever into a single reputation score for this reputation function. And this is then fed back again into the smart contract layer, where other smart contracts and dApps can read the score to actually use it in the protocol. I hope it makes sense. And if not, feel free to ask more questions.
Oh no, that sounds awesome, man. It almost sounds like you let the free market decide the price of an asset in the market, and it almost sounds like you let the people, the free forces decide what reputation values are important in a kind of decentralized way.
Yeah,
that's also something I'm really excited for. That
it's amazing. Yeah, me too. It sounds amazing.
That people from the community can come up with different ideas for reputation functions and provide proof of concepts, experiments, and so on, and that then over time some best practices can evolve, or we can see different systems and compare them. And actually, and another thing why we chose this approach is also that the real world, and there are so many different countries that have different compliance requirements. So for these different compliance requirements, we also want to provide possibilities to implement them in a different way. And with the system, we hope that we can cover most of these compliance requirements to have a compliant DEX that works in the US, and the DEX can maybe have a slightly different version that then works in the EU, for example.
And this is exactly where the concept of compliant privacy comes in, guys. This just ability to have this synergy between Web3, between Galactica network, and traditional finance and the real world, while still maintaining all your privacy. And that's that's definitely one of our primary goals. And just to really summarize very quickly, because I think this will be the final question, really, the final answer, really. We basically have two functions that enable us to do all these, to enable reputation on chain, like two technical pillars, I suppose. So we have a reputation root contract. So this is what Frederick was describing. It's just a public protocol-wide reputation system. So you put in an input of on-chain data, and that will produce a unique reputation score for every address on the network based on the data you provide. So that you can use this as an individual, you can use this as a DApp, you can use this as an institution or an entity, or anything that exists on chain can use this. Can use the reputation root contract to generate a reputation score. And then we have another technical pillar that we call contingent transactions. So these transactions are based on the output of the reputation root contract, and they allow basically users and dApps to make really dynamic acceptance or rejection rules. And that way you can fine tune your interactions across the network utilizing your reputation. So I'm just trying to summarize it as simply as I can. But of course, an on-chain reputation system is by its very nature very technical, but we try our best to try and make it understandable. So thank you very much, Frederick, and thank you very much, Sen. That was an amazing question. Right then, guys. What I think we're going to do, I think, is we're actually later than I thought we were. The time has just flown. I've actually really enjoyed this conversation. I've really enjoyed the space. I just want to say this has been an absolutely fantastic episode. I think we got through an awful lot of content, and we answered, I think, everything but one question. So we'll move the question that we missed over to next week's podcast, or we'll answer it in Discord, depending on how we feel and who's available to answer. Before we wrap this up, I guess I'd just like to offer Frederick. Do you have any final thoughts? Just want to say goodbye, mate.
Thanks to everyone who asked questions. Thanks to everyone who's listening. Thanks to everyone who's interested in the project. I think it's amazing, and we are really happy about all the feedback we get from you. And also thanks, Dave, for hosting this, for the great moderation. And I always like it when you summarize things, what makes Galactica special, or what features we haven't talked about. Because for me, it's sometimes a bit difficult to step back and explain it in a really understandable way. So I really appreciate it.
That's why I'm here, man. That's why I'm here, and I really appreciate your takes, because it's so nice to have that thorough technical data to work with, and that technical answer to wrap your head around. For the people in the audience who understand the tech side of things, it's really amazing that we have that ability. Every week, you get these kind of in-depth tech updates from Frederick, and I think that's incredibly valuable. I'm just here to try and make it understandable for everyone else who might not understand the full depth of the tech stuff. But I think together, I think we do a good job, Frederick. Sen, I don't know if you want to say goodbye, mate. It's been fantastic having you up.
Yeah, I just want to echo that as well. It's a privilege to have AStar here to answer these questions in such an in-depth way. So yeah, appreciate both your times and everyone else as well.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's awesome having you up. For anyone who doesn't know, Sen is actually one of our highest ranked members in Discord. He's worked his way up to, I think, Ghosts in the Chain at the moment, Sen. I'm not entirely sure, but I think so.
I don't know how I did it, but I managed to get Espada today. I thought you had to be, I don't know if it's a bug again. I thought you had to be a test net. Anyway, just FYI, somehow I made it to that rank.
Well, regardless, I believe you deserve it regardless. So yeah, for anyone who is again unaware of what the ranks are, what they mean, and what you can actually get by getting these higher ranks in Discord, just check out the pinned tweet above. It's to do with the Cypher State campaign. This means that you have the opportunity to basically contribute to the early development of Galactica Network, both technically and socially. So you can join our dev nets. You can just basically proliferate the kind of messages that we give out using the Zili campaign and all that kind of thing. I'm sure you've all used one of those before, but we believe that the reward structure and the just the nature of the campaign itself, the way we've built it, really helps. It will be rewarding for you, and it will be very helpful for us with the contributions that you make through the program. So it's a win-win on both sides, and you could end up, depending on which rank you get to, with a very early Galactica Network citizenship. And I'm sure you've had plenty of us talking about Galactica Network citizenship on this podcast, but it's very valuable. It's very useful. So take a look at the tweet above. Okay, guys. So I want to say thank you again. Thank you to everyone who's come up today and asked questions. Thank you for everyone in this just during this week who's asked their questions in the Discord, in the AMA questions channel, on the Twitter comments, and just on Twitter in general by tagging us. It's been absolutely amazing, the kind of feedback we've gotten. We're not in, as I said before, we're in the very early stages of getting out there socially, but we're trying our best. And so we're absolutely thrilled that we have so many genuine community members who are wanting to find out more and to learn more. That's absolutely amazing to us. So remember, guys, this is actually one of two spaces we host every week. This is the Galactica Corecast, and this is your community space. This is where you can request to come up. You can come up at any point in time, ask us questions, and this is your space to learn more about Galactica Network. We also pair this with the Tuesday space, and that's Tuesday Dialogues, Into the Cypher State, the podcast. And that one, we tend to discuss like the hottest topics in the space with some high-level partners, that kind of thing, and just try and get some really cool perspectives on what's going on in the space as it relates to Galactica Network and the partners that we bring up. So that one's really cool. You should definitely check it out. It's the same time as this one, 8 o'clock UTC on the Tuesday. So again, guys, if you could just give us a one final time, if you could give us a like and a retweet on the space, we would so appreciate it. Basically, I realize we're just at the end of the podcast, but it also allows more people to see the recording. We love to make sure that more people get educated. We really appreciate it. And I think with that, I'll just say thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Have a great weekend. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Galactica Forecast. Have a good weekend, guys.